All right, we are back. I have booted up the save from the morale video. So this is at the end of the regular season in 2019. And today we are going to be talking about assessing hitters through maybe some more advanced stats. That is, of course, relative to what kind of stats you're comfortable with. But today's stats we'll be focusing on are on base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, OPS plus, and WAR, which is wins above replacement. And also maybe we'll look at BABIP, which is short for batting average on balls in play. So I'm just going to pick a random team here, and we're just going to look through a couple of hitters, and we're going to look at their stats for these past 2 years, and, just talk about what I'm looking for and, what kind of contributions to the team they've made. So I'm going to pick let's go for the Dodgers. Yeah, no shame in that. Team with a lot of good players, especially because they appear to have added Max Scherzer, which is a terrifying thought. But today we'll be looking at hitters, so I'm going to go to the lineups. And let's start with Cody Bellinger. So you look at his ratings, you can see big power hitter, so that's kind of what we're expecting. All right, so we're going to look at his 2018, and here you can see that he batted .268. That was his batting average. Batting average, I think everyone should know how that works right now, but it's basically the rate at which you accrue hits. But the hot new thing, and by hot new thing, I mean the thing from 20 years ago, is it's actually, in my opinion, and in the opinion of most at this point, better to look at on-base percentage rather than batting average. On-base percentage tells you the rate at which a player gets on base through any means necessary, so that includes things like walks and getting hit by a pitch. And it's better because when you think of it, the goal of the hitter is to get on base. And whether he does that through a single or a walk, it doesn't make a huge difference. So on-base percentage, his on-base percentage was .364. And that's pretty damn good. The average on-base percentage is about .320, give or take, so he's significantly better. In comparison, the average batting average might be about .250, and he's in the .260s. So on-base percentage certainly showing his quality of hitting better than his batting average does. Okay, so we're going to look, and then the next one is slugging percentage. Slugging percentage tells you the rate at which a player accrues bases per at bat. So, for example, a single would count as 1 base, a double would count as 2 bases, a triple would count as 3, and a home run would count as 4 bases. And you can see that his slugging percentage is .581, which is, absolutely fantastic. You can see that it's bolded in red right here. That means he actually led I believe that means he led the National League in slugging percentage. It could be the majors, but I believe that means he led the National League. Average slugging percentage is going to be around maybe 420, 430-ish. It changes every year. It may be going up right now, especially in this sort of home run-centric environment that baseball seems to be in, but 581 is going to be enough to lead it at least some years. So anything over 500, that's kind of a power hitter sort of slugging percentage. And you can see that reflected by the fact that he also hit 53 home runs, which is a shit ton. So this is a very classic sort of legit power hitter, what we would call a triple slash line, the triple slash being batting average, on base, and slugging. And when you add up on base and slugging, you get this nifty little stat, which is OPS, which stands for on base plus slugging, and simply these two numbers added together. And his is 946. That's great. Average would be, maybe, about 750. So if you're looking for a tell-all stat, as I would like to call it, a stat that you can just take a quick glance at and you can get a really good picture of how good someone is hitting, you're going to want to take a look at OPS plus. Now, when you see that plus next to a statistic, that means that it's normalized around 100 being the average. So you can see that, an average hitter would have an OPS plus of 100. and it's just an adjusted OPS. The plus also makes it adjusted for the ballpark too, because if you have an 800 OPS in Coors Field, which is very hitter-centric, or if you have an 800 OPS in AT&T Park, which is a big pitcher's park, those would sort of mean two different things. The guy who's putting up those numbers in the much harder, the much less hitter-friendly ballpark, that's more impressive, and OPS Plus takes that into account, which is what makes it such a great stat. So you can see his is 161, and that is going to, if your OPS Plus is 150, 160, 170 range, you're really the cream of the crop. You're probably an MVP candidate. 100 being the average. If you're 130-ish, you're probably a good chance you're an all-star, or at least in the hunt. And then, you can work your way downwards. Most hitters won't have more than 200. That's about where it tops off. I think Barry Bonds in early 2000s had some years where he was like 230 or 240, but most recent year over 200 would be, I think Bryce Harper was at like 197 or something like that in his monster 2015 year where he won MVP. And then as you work down the lower side, you'll see most people won't put up less than, say, 70, and if they are putting down less than 70, they should probably be in AAA. That's my opinion. Well, and then next stat is wins above replacement. So wins above replacement. If OPS Plus is sort of your go-to to assess hitting, wins above replacement is your go-to to assess all aspects of the game. So you can see sort of how it works is you'll benefit more in terms of wins above replacement depending on what position you play. So Cody Bellinger plays first base. That's a really easy position to play. So his expectations as a hitter are much higher than, say, a shortstop or a catcher. I'm going to do a whole video on this concept. It's actually pretty simple, but I don't want to dig into it right now. But the idea with Bellinger is that all his value as a first baseman is going to be tied up into his hitting. And he hit well, and he put up 6.4 WAR, which is really good. The average wins above replacement for an everyday position player, it would be easy to think that it's 0, but the average is actually 2. You see, a replacement player is sort of a fictionalized idea. Bear with me now. It's a fictionalized idea of a player who is essentially a little too good for AAA, but maybe not quite good for the majors. He's a replacement player, a guy you would call up if there's an injury. If you think replacement player, I want you to go to Baseball Reference or Fangraphs or your website of choice, and I want you to look up a guy who used to play for the Braves. Now he's currently on the Yankees roster. His name is Jace Peterson. He bounces up and down between AAA and the majors a lot. He puts up pretty much about 0 WAR over the course of his career in the majors, but he's pretty much a great example of what a replacement player is. So your average starter is going to put up about 2 WAR. All-stars will put up about 4 WAR, and then once you get to 6, 7, 8, 9s, you're really kind of more an MVP candidate range. So a great year for Bellinger in 2018. 2019, we'll just go through this quickly. His home runs fell off, his average fell off, but his on-base percentage stayed the same, which is good. So you would see that this 14-point drop in average, it really doesn't mean anything if his on-base percentage stayed the same. Slugging did go down. Still OPS of 887, OPS plus of 135. That's really good. WAR of 4.8. I mean, that's going to make you an all-star most years. So not quite as good as he was in 2018, but also a really good 2019. Okay, we're going to look at someone else, maybe someone not on the Dodgers. So I'm going to look at I'm curious about maybe the Angels. Yeah, I'm going to look at Andrelton Simmons. Yeah, okay, he's perfect. So we're going to look at his 2018 right here. Andrelton Simmons, 294 batting average. That is pretty good. I mean, that is well above average. but his on-base percentage only 328, so that's really about the league average. So even though you're looking at this high batting average that's flirting around 300, 328 on-base percentage gives you a better view. 420 slugging percentage, and that adds up to 748 OPS, which is pretty normal. So OPS plus of 106 on the year. That's adjusted. So you can see that he was just slightly above average, not an insane hitter, but just slightly above average in terms of the league that year. But now we're going to take a look at wins above replacement, and you'll see that his is 6.2, which is actually, yeah, it's about the same as what Cody Bellinger had in 2018. Cody, I think, had 6.4. And that means that his value as a shortstop was derived from his defense. And if you've ever seen Andrelton Simmons play before, you'll know that he is, in my opinion, and I'm biased because I am a Braves fan, he is perhaps the best defensive shortstop since Ozzie Smith. He's just this generational talent. And yeah, I mean, he's just an amazing player. So, and that's, you can see that reflected in his wins above replacement. So defense really matters, and I'll do a video on that. But when you look at wins above replacement, just keep in mind that often you're not just looking at what they do as a hitter, you're looking at the whole sum of what they do on the baseball field. I'm going to quickly go to his batting stats tab here, and I'm actually going to go to view and expanded batting stats, and we're just going to look at his batting average in balls in play. And you can see in 2018, where is it? Yeah, 2018, it was 317. That's pretty normal, I would say. Average is going to be about 300, but so when you think about it, what would a player who has a high batting average on balls in play be like? Well, it'd be someone who hits the ball hard. It would be someone who hits the ball pretty low to the ground, because ground balls have a higher rate of being, things like singles rather than pop-ups. And then it would also be someone who's fast on the base paths. And Simmons is all right in these regards, so to see him get a 317, something a little above average, is not shocking. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm guessing Ichiro's batting average on balls in play for his career was really high, especially in sort of his earlier years in Seattle when he was just blazing fast and getting infield hits left and right. And then you have hitters who are lumbering and slow and who hit a lot of fly balls. They try to hit a lot of home runs, and as a result hit a lot of pop-ups that are really easy to catch. So I'm guessing Joey Gallo's batting average on balls in play is probably about 250 to 260 in a given year. And then so we drop down to 2019, and you'll see he's at 247. And I would assume, just given his style of hitting, that that's a pretty good indicator of some bad luck. It could be some bad hitting as well, but you would expect that to normalize. You can see that his overall batting average on balls in play is 280. So you would expect that to normalize. So when you're assessing a hitter, especially over a much smaller sample size, maybe not over the course of a season, but over the course of a half for sure, take a look at that batting average in balls in play. It'll give you a good idea if they're sort of overperforming or underperforming to some degree. So yeah, that does it for this video. In the next one, we'll look at pitchers and how I can sort of assess starting pitchers and relievers, what differences that may entail. Yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed the content so far. I'll still be trying to pump it out pretty regularly. And yeah, so peace, and I'll see you guys in the next video.